The representation of the devil in the medieval ages provoked many reflections on the world we live in, on mankind, on circumstances, and on the Creator. No being has ever received so many names as the figure representing evil, the devil. He became known as Satan, Lucifer, Devil, Demon, Cursed, Belial, etc. He assumed names known as the Father of Lies, Evil Angel, Evil Thing, Evil Spirit, etc. It has assumed countless hybrid forms, among them serpent, wolf, goat, raven. About its origin, there are still several uncertainties. According to biblical accounts, he was an angel of light who, by rebelling against the divine figure, was expelled from the heavenly kingdom. He was a seraphim angel, or, in other versions, a cherub angel. He had a beautiful golden form. But after his fall, caused by the sin of pride, he took on deformed, frightening forms that caused fear in the Christian people during almost the entire Middle Ages. Among them, the devil, a being capable of possessing and trying the worldly and evil human souls after death, the Lord of the infernal lands. He became the great adversary of God and the relentless enemy of Jesus Christ and his disciples. His mission was to fight good and make evil triumph on earth over men. Throughout the ages, he gained importance in religious narratives. For example, he is mentioned 53 times in the New Testament and once in the Old Testament. According to researchers, the devil took his form when original thought and religious discourse came into play, which gave him life and power. This video aims to understand how the devil, the representative of evil, emerged during the Middle Ages. The way he was represented and spread during the medieval times by the Catholic Church, how he became popular in the mindset of the Christian people, in popular stories, in the arts, particularly in the theater, thus creating fertile images about malignity. The devil is on the loose. Although the church believed that Jesus had appeared in the world to save man before the devil's power, it stopped defending the idea that he had been totally defeated. If that were so, there would be no reason for the church to exist. He remained a huge opponent. He hated God and all human beings conceived in his image. He longed to capture as many souls as possible in his infernal kingdom, to take away their divine similarities in vengeance of his fall. The enemy and the many demons wandered everywhere, trying and corrupting people, exploiting every weakness and desire. The more beautiful and sweet an aspect of life was, the demon appeared sordidly under the surface to capture the unwary. All unexplained events were preferably attributed to these evil beings. This incorporated all the beliefs of antiquity, amplified by the discourse of the church. The devil became a common figure in the life of the Christian community. The devil is everywhere. The whole world is invaded by him, and his greatest victim is his wife. Because a woman is more predestined to evil than man, according to the biblical texts and the first Christian theologians. In the universities, the debates were much more focused on the devil than on God. It was necessary to recognize and identify the enemy so that the combat would end with the triumph of the Creator. In the church, the faithful found sacred representations of saints exorcising men, and from them, crowds of demons sprang up. There were also stories of saints personifying vices and virtues, where the demons represented eternal damnation. The various representations of the evil obey a more or less conscious tradition. He has a burlesque side. He is the object of ridicule, showing his implicit inferiority before sanctified figures. The devil causes fear and makes people laugh. He trembles when he sees the enemy, but also considers himself a god, who will be stronger, and the consciences are reassured. In the early centuries of feudalism, the population had no great fear of the devil, since they believed he was limited by divine authority. If they needed help, the church would be a protection. But in men's daily lives, the idea grew that the devil was always everywhere and attentive to the slightest mistake. The fear of the evil one appears in the constant use of holy water and the sign of the cross to repel the malicious agents, as well as in the anxiety provoked by the idea of dying without the sick. Through images and rites, the church has kept alive the threat of hell before the eyes of the population. In the 4th and 5th centuries, the desert hermits had visions that they attributed to Satan. Saint Anthony gave the most devilish account. The devil tempts him with lustful ideas, with money, and finally, with the form of the woman. When the saint decides to reside in an old tomb, crowds of angry demons appear, beating him until he is unconscious. He saw the demon in the form of terrifying animals. Throughout the Middle Ages, the demon evolved from a simple tempting being to something more present in the life of medieval man, invading the smallest details of their lives, including their bodies. In this atmosphere of progressive terror, Christian consciences began to believe in secret societies that worship the devil. The anguishing concern about the power of Satan and his subtleties made the men of the church identify in the Christian community those responsible for the growth of evil power, delaying the inevitable redemption of humanity. The devil's later history is confused with the persecution of the Jews, the sorcerers, and the great witch hunt of modern Europe. But let us focus on the first. From the 12th century onward, the few and often contradictory ideas began to be systematized for a better understanding. Soon, a huge amount of subdomains appeared. Like the succubus, female demons that tormented sleeping men, assuming the image of voluptuous, sometimes virgin women. Their purpose was to destroy the vows of chastity, or, in the case of married men, to provoke adultery. The incubuses represented the male side and aimed to corrupt the female. And the church assumed the role of the only entity that could defeat the devil on earth. In the New Testament, Jesus delegated his apostles the power to cast out demons. The 13th century is a very important time in the history of the devil. Thanks to the authority of Thomas Aquinas, the ambiguities regarding the demonic characters disappear. The bishop claims that they exist and that they can cause a variety of damages. The devil becomes more respected and powerful than ever. Covenants are made with him, where men surrender their souls in exchange for the satisfaction of any ambition. The most famous of this time was Don Juan, who sold his soul in exchange for the ability to attract married women. Also, according to Thomas Aquinas, the devil had not lost his intelligence and could achieve many things superior to the human intellect: to know the future, to penetrate thought. With Aquinas, demons become evil angels, with the ability to enliven bodies and communicate their knowledge and commandments to men, with an organized army to tempt humanity. Literature and art go through a rapid change. Until the 12th century, the divine image had been the powerful and always triumphant God of the Old Testament. The idea was clear: against that creator, Satan was not a threat. However, from that time on, humanity and the suffering of the Son of God began to gain greater prominence. The anguish and suffering experienced by Jesus made the powers of the devil grow frighteningly. Satan became the great destroyer, the arch-enemy, with many violent powers, before whom a man was defenseless. Only God's warnings and constant help of the church's ministers can save him. The priests tried to find ways to identify an affected person, listing 17 possible causes. For example, these were signs interpreted as having the devil inside the body: not pronouncing the holy name of Jesus or any other saint, speaking a language he had never learned, an increase in body volume and strength. Medieval doctors also had methods to identify malevolent invasions. If they could not discover the person's illness, he was possessed by the devil. When someone lost his appetite and vomited the flesh he had eaten, the devil was present. Or, if he received all possible treatments and remained ill, the person had been assaulted by the devil. From the 13th century on, the fear of the devil increased relentlessly. This change of powers in Christendom and the various victories of Satan caused Western Europe to plunge into a wave of widespread panic. In the 14th century, the great crisis of feudalism, with a greater number of catastrophes and an increase in misery, provoked the delirium of terrified consciences, affirming that the devil was responsible for the sufferings of the collective. Men felt abandoned by God, submerged in a world of terror. The devil's kingdom, on the rise, slowly covered up the image of the city of God. The constant presence of the devil gave rise to new speculations, with scientific authority, demonology. The theologians began to concern themselves with establishing with the utmost clarity his profile and character, in a pious effort to help Christendom recognize the enemy to take precautions against him. Collecting descriptions from the erudite and popular tradition and adding others created an unbridled imagination. Thousands of highly detailed portraits of demonic forms emerged, an inventory that became the main guide in judging and punishing offenders to exercise community evil. The paintings representing the evil were unusual until the 12th century. It was there that the representations of the Last Judgment and Hell began to be present in the imagination of the faithful and in the walls of churches. Initially, the devil was represented as a worthy figure, respecting his condition as a fallen angel. But, due to the pedagogical efforts of the representatives of the faith, he becomes an increasingly repugnant monster, whose deformity is proof of his spiritual corruption. Like the frescoes of Taddeo di Bartolo and Francesco Traini, the three heads attributed to Satan are a parody of the Holy Trinity. Often, the devil has a second face on the abdomen or the butt. Another demonic invention, the second face, represented the displacement of the center of intelligence and attention from the head to the lower organs in the fallen angels. The representations of enemies had developed into an endless variety of grotesque and phantasmagorical forms. These beings were the symbol of the time against the Creator and his creation, nature. The demonic element as an animal or with human and animal forms highlighted its bestial nature according to canonical guidelines, but monstrously representing supernatural beings through the combination of various elements of nature was also a tradition. Another characteristic that was born in popular tradition is the fact that the devil is wicked as a result of an injury caused by the fall of the skies. It was believed that people with similar deformity were a kind of agent of evil. The devil took another animal forms, but his appearance as a black dog, the color underlines the demonic presence, is the second most common depiction. Medieval culture turned the Prince of Darkness into a being capable of causing fear and dread, of condemning crowds to hell, to death. At the same time, medieval tradition ridiculed him in the arts. However, as a son of his time, Satan continued to tempt mankind, not because he was the lord of tricks or shadows, but because he was the lord of sinful human beings. After all, man is a kind of reflection of the world and of the cosmos.